are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. I'm Reverend Stephen, your minister. Thank you for joining us this morning as we gather virtually once again, a spiritual community that seeks to be diverse and inclusive as we inspire love, work for justice, and grow together into community. I want to extend a warm welcome to Jacob Nash, our guest speaker this morning. Jake is the co-founder and president of Margie's Hope, an organization dedicated to assisting transgender and non-binary people in need. Welcome, Jacob. I extend my thanks also to our tech team leading worship remotely, including those who won't be on the camera. We are a people who aspire to practice radical hospitality, to be welcoming and inclusive. It's one of our highest values as a gathered community sharing life's journey. And once again, welcome. Now, as we prepare for worship, let's take a moment to breathe, to invite the spirit of love to be present among us, and to open our hearts and minds to each other as we honor the Transgender Day of Visibility.
Just as you are without changing a thing, just as you are, I accept you. I see you, I hear you, I welcome you in, just as you are, just as you are. Just as you are without changing a thing, just as you are, I accept you. I see you, I hear you, I welcome you in, just as you are, just as you are. Just as you are without changing a thing, just as you are, I accept you. I see you, I hear you, I welcome you in, just as you are, just as you are.
There are people who have had to live in the shadows for many years because of their gender identity challenges society's norms. They are transgender people. Today, we honor their presence in the world as we observe the International Transgender Day of Visibility, the TDOV, an annual day of recognition celebrated around the world on March 31st. Together, we say, we see you, and we affirm that transgender people bring richness and depth to life and have gifts and wisdom to offer us. A poet who calls themselves Wandering Fears writes, visibility is videos, images, representation. Visibility is one day of the year, thousands of voices singing, making ourselves known through the stories on the media, rising up in hope and pride and strength. The TDOV is a much needed day of empowerment. Celebrating the Transgender Day of Visibility is a way to understand more fully that gender is not binary, but is a spectrum, and that human diversity is not to be feared or ridiculed or destroyed. Today is dedicated to celebrating the accomplishments and victories of transgender and gender-expansive people, while simultaneously raising awareness of the work that is still needed to combat discrimination and violence, and providing much-needed visibility to transgender people. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that every human being has worth and dignity, and that worth includes our gender and our sexuality. We not only open our doors to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, we value diversity of sexuality and gender and see it as a spiritual gift. To guide us in doing this work, today we begin a year-long journey of renewing our welcoming congregation status. Through reflection, education, and projects, we will renew our commitment to being an inclusive religious community where we work for LGBTQ+ justice and equity as a core part of who we are, and to be a home where we can say to everyone who comes through our doors, all of who you are is sacred. All of who you are is welcome here. In this spirit of inclusiveness and welcome in celebration of our transgender siblings, come, let us worship together. I invite you now to join in singing our opening hymn, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. We join Unitarian Universalists across the country in lighting a chalice, a sign of life's beauty and wonder, a symbol of peace and hope, an invitation to continue the ongoing search for the light of truth within us and among us, and a reminder of our interconnectedness within the great web of existence, of which each one of us, including transgender people, are a beloved part. As I light our shared chalice, I invite you to light your home chalice. Now, would you join me in reading the words adapted from Until All Means All by Erica Hewitt? The chalice, as a symbol of Unitarian Universalism, arose as a sign of promise that anyone who is marginalized will not be forgotten or ignored, especially transgender people, because you are whole, beloved, and precious from the perspective of the holy. As we light our chalice, may it be a symbol of our promise to draw the circle wide, a sign that we will not rest until all means all. I invite you now to use the chat box to share with us your concerns, your sorrows, and losses. We'll share joys in a few moments, but for now, please share concerns and sorrows. We hold all in our hearts those who are suffering with COVID. There are far too many infections still happening. Let's pray that this pandemic ends soon. Amber Weeb shares worries about her friend Wendy, who may have to have surgery to remove a tumor. May she know peace and healing. Val Henry sends thanks to everyone for empathy and friendship. Your calls, texts, and cards have comforted us as we continue to grieve the loss of Gigi. We are grateful to be part of such a caring community. Val, we hold you and your family in our hearts as you continue to grieve and remember. Heidi Emhoff Wood shares she found out a friend of mine she hadn't seen in years just died of cancer. We hold you in our hearts as you grieve, Heidi. Trish McLaughlin shares our beloved dog, Teddy, passed yesterday after a year-long illness. I am so sorry, Trish. We are holding you in our hearts, thoughts as you grieve. For everyone struggling to be their true selves to the outside world. Randy Bish remembers his friend Pam, who has brain cancer. Vivian Sandlin says we mourn the passing of Lorenzo Jovetic Payne, a longtime youth activist at Summer Institute. Jacob Nash seeks to remember all those in the trans community who cannot be visible, who are not visible. May they be safe. Would you join me now in the spirit of reflection and prayer? Spirit that is life and love itself, mystery in which we find strength and common purpose. As we turn our minds and hearts toward one another in this circle of love and care, we hold all those who need our love and support, those we've named, those who are in our hearts and minds, for all who are ill, who are in pain either in body or in spirit, for those who struggle with addiction, may they find healing and wholeness. We pray for those who are lonely, those who are grieving, the victims of any kinds of abuse, may they know comfort and peace. As each of us faces life's challenges, losses, and struggles, may we find strength and hope in knowing that we are not alone, that we are held by love itself, a love that embraces us and sustains us. On this Transgender Day of Visibility, we pray for all transgender people, especially those who suffer from discrimination, homelessness, despair, fear, or violence, or remain in life's shadows, held back by fear or the possibility of rejection. May we be faithful allies working so that the world welcomes your gifts and your wisdom and allows you to be your true self. May we remember that we are connected in mystery and miracle to one another and to all of life, and may this knowledge guide us in the ways of compassion. Now I invite you, using the chat box, to share your joys with us. Curris family sends their thanks to everyone who worked hard for the Stuffy sleepover, which was such a nice thing to do for the UU kids. The Stuffies have had a lot of fun this weekend. What other joys are there this morning? I share the joy from Krishna Fitch and Travis Lee. Their son was born on March 17th. We welcome him. Rebecca Klein wishes Claudia Miller a happy birthday tomorrow. Happy day, Claudia. Jenny Horvath shares the wonderful news. We were blessed with the birth and adoption of a new grandchild this week. Grandchild number 3. Congratulations, Jenny. Lee Gilligs, listening to Inara singing this morning and having an outing with her older sister this afternoon. May these be joyful times, Leah. Mike, Stephanie, Benny, and Katie say we will see grandparents in person for the first time this week. Yay, long awaited. Cheryl Spore shares the good news. My doctor told me that all the tests are positive. I am healthy. That is wonderful news, Cheryl. Carol Wigan says, I'm going to Boston to visit my grandchildren. Have a safe and wonderful trip, Carol. Kara Kramer says, both my aunt and a family friend have received hopeful prognoses regarding cancer. Vaccine rates are going up. May your aunt and friend know healing. Sonus Parsons shares the news that her husband Ted has just landed a full-time job with all the trimmings, finally after all his efforts. Wonderful news, Sonus. We rejoice with you. Tracy Lunas says, grateful my father is getting a new knee this week and hopeful that this will be the beginning of his regaining mobility and becoming more independent. May that be so, and may the healing go smoothly. And now, with gratitude for these and every blessing we receive in life, for the gift of life itself, for the companionship of each other on life's journey, for the hope and the possibilities we find together, may we all say, Amen.
Lavender in the clouds when the sun goes down. Lavender every day that the earth turns round. When I die, let 'em know that I was lavender. Lavender. Lavender in spaces in between. Lavender in the places left unseen. In my bones, let 'em know that I was lavender. Lavender like those kings and queens of old. Lavender though their stories not been told. In my blood, let 'em know that I was lavender. Lavender. Lavender with an odor soft and sweet. Lavender where two spirits wholly meet. In my soul, let 'em know that I was lavender. Lavender. 47,000 Beads, written by Koja Idehua and Angel Idehua, illustrated by Holly McGillis. To those who believed and supported my dream, thank you, Holly. L. Frank, we dedicate this book to you, our dear cousin and elder, whom we are honored to call family and fight alongside, Wopila and Wado, Koja and Angel. How do you think this child feels right now? Peyton's Auntie Aota came into her room. Time for bed, but before sleep, tell me, why do you not dance powwow with us, little one? What do you think Peyton was doing in her room? Peyton shrugged and flopped down on her bed. Come on now, said her auntie, tell me. All in a rush, Peyton said, I don't want to jingle dance, auntie. I don't want to wear a dress. Peyton, there are many dances, auntie said gently. There are many regalias. Peyton started to cry. Finally she said, there's just none for kids like me. Auntie smiled at Peyton and started undoing her braid. I think I am beginning to understand. You sleep now. Tomorrow is a new day, and I know someone who can help. In the morning, Auntie Aota baked bread and went to go see a friend. She found Elle working and said, Ho, how's it today, grandparent? Elle put down their tools and answered, It's a good day. What way can I help you today, Aota? Auntie Aota gave Elle the bread she'd baked, and they sat down together in a shady spot. When they were settled, Auntie explained that she wanted to talk about her niece, Peyton. Elle asked, Peyton is the small, quiet one? Oh, yes, that's the one, said Auntie Aota. You've noticed her? I've noticed that I always see her keeping time with her feet, but she doesn't dance. She looks at the dancers like she wants badly to dance, like in her heart she is dancing. She is a shy child? Asked Elle. Peyton is special, grandparent. Different. I think her path is two-spirit. I think she wants regalia like her brother and uncle. She feels alone, but I know she isn't. I want to show her that she is not. Well, said Elle, I'm happy to share teachings with her and to guide her while she learns which path is hers to walk. But I think you need more than just that, yeah? Aota laughed. You saw that too. I was hoping you'd help me with getting regalia together, the kind she really wants. I know it's a lot to ask. It's a big job, yeah? But that's why we have a community. Let me ask around. Are you still beating too, Aota? Let's draw it up. On the way home, Aota called her sister Chapa, Peyton's other auntie, and asked if she'd make Peyton's new beaded belt and headband. Maybe use lots of orange. It's her favorite. Then she sat down with Peyton's mom Micah to explain. They spoke late into the night. Her mom asked, Should I be worried? Aota said, No, sister. You should make her a ribbon shirt and pants to match.
You'll see, she'll finally get out in the arena where she's meant to be. Who else should she ask? Auntie sent an email to the grandmother who first taught her how to bead. Winona was still making regalia, and she said she would be glad to help, even if she needed a magnifying glass to see all the tiny beads on Baton's harness and aprons. Auntie Iota called her cousin all the way in Montana. He was so excited to make a beautiful set of beautiful armbands and cuffs for Peyton's new regalia. He sent them with a blessing to sing at the powwow for her, and with a hug for Peyton. Last, but maybe most important, Elle offered to make Peyton's moccasins. They had turtles on the toes to give endurance for the dance, and to make Peyton's feet feel grounded to the earth. Peyton was in her room getting ready for the giveaway and potluck. It was one of her favorite and best parts of the powwow. Her aunties and mama would drum and sing, and there would be as much of all of her favorite foods as she could eat. What should I give away? Peyton thought. Grandmother says it's always something you value that you give first. Wait, I've got it. Peyton got down the abalone shell that she'd put up on the shelf. She held it and remembered how happy she'd been to get it and how it made her smile all year when she looked at it. Perfect. When they got to the potluck, Auntie Iota said, Peyton, I have a special giveaway for you this time. You have heard how when I was a girl, how I wanted to drum, but all the drummers were men where I lived. Now you know I'm head singer on our drum here. My family believed in me and honored me, and today I am grateful to do the same for you. Our whole family wants to give this gift to you, but the person to give it is a new teacher for you, Auntie Iota said, taking Elle by the hand. This grandparent will give you stories and help you find your path. Aho, Tagoha, said Elle, greeting Peyton. I have such stories to tell you about people from all the nations who carry two spirits inside of them. I can't wait to tell them to you. Peyton, your castle and community stand behind me to give you this gift, and may you dance strong in it tomorrow, Elle said. Peyton unwrapped each package and heard who had made it and given it, with her mother and Auntie Iota sitting beside her. The next day, at the powwow, in the arena, with her auntie drumming an honor song, Peyton was finally dancing. Dancing as herself, not as a boy or as a girl, but as Peyton and her 47,000 beads. In the words of Laverne Cox, it is revolutionary for any trans person to choose to be seen and visible in a world that tells us we should not exist. The International Transgender Day of Visibility is this spirit of revolution. When George Catlin painted the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island in the 1830s, he deliberately chose to avoid depicting the two spirits he encountered because their existence was condemned and seen as evidence of savageness. Catlin wrote, "This is one of the most unaccountable and disgusting customs that I have ever met in the Indian country. I should wish that it might be extinguished before it be more fully recorded." The belief that we didn't have transgender people back then, or that teenagers just want to be trans to be cool or popular, or that children are too young to know their gender, is rooted in this legacy of transphobia, which tries to deny us any positive recognition. It is the result of centuries of work to exterminate, imprison, institutionalize, and brutalize us, to drive us out of our own communities in the middle of the night. Transgender, gender nonconforming, and intersex people have always been here as long as there have been humans, and we have existed in all continents, all nations, and all cultures. Gender variance exists throughout the entire animal kingdom and amongst countless deities and stories from around the world. You have ancestors in your own family tree who were trans before the word transgender existed, further back in time when there were older words, too many of which have since been forgotten. When I was maybe 3 years old, I remember coming out for the first time. I did not yet have the words to describe myself, but I knew I wasn't a girl and that I wanted to learn how to pee standing up. I remember my otherwise progressive, educated, and caring parents not knowing what to say. They laughed. Still, they allowed me to be a tomboy, to get my hair cut short, and to wear my brother's hand-me-downs. When I acted particularly boyish, they jokingly called me Kevyn, the name that had been picked out for me had I been assigned male at birth. I was forced to dress as a girl at formal events. My room had pink wallpaper and pink carpet, and my begging to go to Boy Scout camp was dismissed. But otherwise, I was allowed to be myself at home. When I was in early elementary school, though, I would get in trouble for lining up in the boys' line, or for trying to use the boys' restroom, or generally acting like a boy. I remember being ridiculed by my teachers in front of the entire class. Middle school was hellish. I knew something was very, very wrong, but I didn't know what to do about it. Entering high school, I learned the words transgender and androgynous and became aware for the first time that there were other people in the world like me. My only awareness of trans representation in media at that time, however, would be Silence of the Lambs, Boys Don't Cry, a brief scene in Blast from the Past with a trans woman working on the street, and that time on South Park when Mr. Garrison announced he was transitioning to be a woman, only to change his mind after a few episodes. It was around this time that I started a habit of picking up dictionaries, opening them up at the letter T, and searching them to see if they included the word transgender or transsexual. The vast majority did not. The message was loud and clear. You are confused. You are wrong. You are dangerous. You are in danger. You are a joke. You are not real. Transgender Day of Visibility was started in 2009, the year I graduated from high school, by Michigan transgender activist Rachel Crandell Crocker in response to this lack of positive recognition of trans people. She recalled, "When I was growing up, it was in the 60s, and I tried to tell my mom and dad what I was, and their reaction was, 'Oh, I never want you to say that out loud ever again. That's the worst thing. That's the most dirtiest thing that you could ever say.' Well," Rachel continued, "I was 8 years old, and that's pretty heavy for an 8-year-old. So I went into the closet for 20 years, all the while knowing I was the most dirtiest thing on earth." For me, it was the results of the 2016 election that inspired me to more fully come out of the closet as non-binary and transmasculine, and to be the out and proud role model for children that I needed when I was younger. An 11-year-old once asked me, "Are there other people like you?" I asked, "What do you mean?" "You know, who are like boy and girl," she explained. The day before, her younger brother had asked about it, and she must have overheard the brief explanation of my gender identity that I had offered him. "Oh, yes," I answered with a big smile on my face. "Really? Like how many? Like a few?" I laughed. There are millions of people in the world like me. And you know what? As long as there have been people like me who are like boy and girl. Her jaw dropped. "Wow, we're so lucky to have you at camp then. Everyone else here is just plain boy or girl." It is a blessing to be trans. It is a blessing to have a trans person in your family or your community. It is a blessing for one person to be a bridge maker between the feminine and masculine perspectives. We are warriors, healers and medicine people, teachers and thinkers, artists and musicians, makers and scientists, activists, stewards, and caretakers. We are beautiful. We are natural. We are something to be cherished, honored, and valued for our transness. If you are a trans person in the audience today, I want to share these final words with you. In case no one told you this week, thank you for being trans. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your wisdom. And thank you for everything that you bring to your communities, whether they see you or not.
Thank you, Kevyn. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your wisdom. We see you and you are a blessing to us.
First, I want to thank everybody for inviting me and welcoming me to your space. As we know, spaces are intentional. Spaces of welcome are even more intentional. And I appreciate that as a transgender man. So when I was growing up, you never heard the word transgender. I was born in 1964. All of my years, my younger years, I knew that there was something different about me, but I didn't know what it was. My family called me a tomboy. I looked like a tomboy. I rode my bike. I went fishing. I did things that most people would see as boys' activities. Throughout my youth, there was always this period of loneliness and feeling alone because I felt like nobody could understand what was going on in my mind. I knew I was different. I knew I was a boy, but how could that be? Because everybody was telling me I'm a girl. Everything from what my body looked like to how my parents wanted me to dress was telling me that I was a girl. Because there was no visibility, because there was no conversation about transgender people back then, I thought there was something wrong with me. For years, like Kevin was talking about, as a younger person, I tried to stand and pee because that's what boys do, right? I quickly realized that that wasn't going to work for me and that it was okay to sit. Growing up, as you could see in the pictures of me when I was younger, most of my dress was very masculine or very in between. There were those rare times where I had to wear a dress. And in fact, one of the stories that my mother often shared was growing up, I grew up in the church and I was an usher as a teenager. I would usher people in to their seats in the mornings. Well, the trustees went to my mother and told my mother that if I wanted to continue to usher, that I needed to wear a dress or a skirt because that's what girls wear. And my mother, the wonderful, amazing person that she was, marched herself into the trustees meeting and said, my child will not wear a skirt or a dress. My child will wear a nice pantsuit or nice pants and a shirt, but my child will continue to be an usher. And the trustees were like, okay, Marge, all right, not a problem. My mother was a force to be reckoned with. My mother knew her child. She knew that I was different, but also didn't know what it was. In 1998, I was watching a documentary on the Discovery Channel, and it was called What Sex Am I? As I was watching this documentary, it was as if the young man in the story was telling my story. It was almost identical to how I felt. So that was when I had language. That's when I realized who I was. That's when I started researching the word transsexual. Now, of course, if you remember, the internet was just at its beginning back then. Yes, that's how old I am. And, I type in the word transsexual to learn about who I was. And I didn't get a lot of information that was important. It was unfortunately not the best type of information when you pulled up that word. But that's who I was. That's who I knew that I was. For me, my faith and my understanding of my God has always been the foundation of who I am. As I learned more about this word, I was like, okay, well, what does the Bible say about transsexuals? What does the church say? What does my faith community say? And as I did my research, the Bible actually doesn't use the word transsexual, of course not. But as I researched through and read more about eunuchs and the fact that Jesus called them a blessed people, I felt a little bit more at ease. But I remember one day specifically after my morning reflection, which was about the story of Jacob wrestling with the angel of God. And as I was walking down to the mailbox to get the mail, I remember praying out loud and saying, God, I just want to be a blessing. I just want you to bless me, but I want to be a blessing unto you. So you need to give me the insight as to if I'm okay, if this is okay, because I don't want to hurt you. Well, as I got down to the mailbox, I opened the mail, and right there was a letter from the doctors that diagnosed me as trans saying, this person needs to be referred to as male, he's male, and all of those things. To me, that was my assurance. To me, that was my answer. To me, God was saying, I love you. I created you exactly the way that you are. Throughout the rest of my growth and my journey, which we all have, I have grown to love myself more and more and more every day. Prior to my transition, I didn't love myself. I didn't know who I was. But as I grew in the understanding of who I am today, I love being transgender. To me, as Kevyn said, I am a blessing. I see it as a blessing because I have had the opportunity for 33 years to live my life as a female. Now I get to live the rest of my life as the male that I've always known myself to be. So as I grew to understand myself, language changed. So the term went from transsexual to transgender, and now we've got non-binary, and we have gender expansive, and we are learning more and more about who transgender people are. When we learn and understand, we have to know that language changes. Language is always changing on us. But we don't dismiss that. We need to learn the language. We need to learn about pronouns. Why are pronouns so important? It's part of our identities, and most individuals who are not transgender, who are cisgender, those whose mind and bodies are congruent with one another, don't really realize and understand how important pronouns are because it's not something that you've had to think about. To you, it's just, oh, of course, that's a he, that's a she, because that's what they look like. But that's not always the case, and we have to realize and understand that and talk about it and ask and share. Because I will tell you, if you tell somebody what your pronouns are and they're someone from the trans community, they will pick up that you want to learn more about who they are, and they will share. And they will share. We also have to understand that sometimes our language can be hurtful, and we have to think about what we say. We don't often think about microaggressions that happen. But I remember one time specifically, I was singing in a chorus, and this chorus sang at the Transgender Day of Remembrance. And the day after the Transgender Day of Remembrance, we were in rehearsal, we were practicing, and several of the guys came up to me and were like, "Oh, well, how did you get involved, with this?" And I said, "Well, I'm transgender." And they looked at me and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you're so much more masculine than a lot of the guys here." And I was like, "Okay, thank you." Sometimes we don't think about how we say things. If someone had said to me, "Oh, you're you're very masculine." Well, thank you. That's a compliment. But when you add for being transgender or comparing me to somebody else, that can be hurtful. So we have to think about how we say things, how we use our language. And that's one thing that, again, most people don't think about, because we think we're complimenting somebody and the intention is absolutely innocent and absolutely intended for good. But we also have to realize that just because I'm transgender does not mean that I'm any less of a man. And learning that and understanding how sometimes the offhanded compliments can be hurtful can also then shut down conversation with people. And if somebody corrects you or someone says, "Thank you, but how you put that was a little hurtful," take it as an opportunity to learn. Take it as an opportunity to understand individuals more. Realize the privilege that you have in even saying some of those things. Again, we don't talk about privilege either for cisgender individuals. The opportunities that you have to go to a family of faith or a community of faith and not have to worry about, well, if they find out, will I be asked to leave? If they find out, will the pastor ask me what genitalia I have? Sadly, I've experienced that. You don't have to worry about what restrooms you're allocated to. You don't have to worry about whether you can find a job or not. The saddest thing I heard in the past, actually, few days, a friend of mine lost his mother. And he shared with me that before his mother passed, that she did not want him listed in the obituary because she did not want her previous coworkers to know about him. That is really hard on so many levels, to not be acknowledged as part of a family, especially to a mom whom you helped, shared with, took time, took care of, and now she's still afraid, even in her passing, that people will find out about him. Now, was it because she was trying to protect him? Or was it because she was trying to protect her own identity? We don't know, but it was hurtful. So as cisgender people, you don't have to worry about situations like that because of who you are. And those are things that you really have to think about when you are looking at what you can do to become more of a welcoming church. How do you carry your welcome? How do you share as a church and as an individual that trans people are welcome there? Do you have name tags that have your pronouns on them? When you will welcome a new person, do you share your name and say what your pronouns are? Hi, I'm Jacob Nash, and my pronouns are he, him, his. It may seem like an extra effort, but that effort shares and says who you are, not only as an individual, but as a community of faith. How do you show your social justice work? You know that there are bills in the Ohio House to stop transgender youth from participating in sports. Speak out to your representatives. Tell them that a transgender youth is innocent. They just want to play sports just like any other kid does. We still have no protections in the state of Ohio. It's still difficult for trans people to find employment without feeling like their job is always on the line, or looking for a place to live without their potential tenant and potential landlord kicking them out because they don't want a transgender individual renting their space. How are you welcoming? What language do you use? How can you be the best representation of your faith to everybody around you? What does your cities say? What is represented? Margie's Hope, the organization that I founded, helps support transgender individuals, support our youth. We have a phenomenal youth program. Kevyn is one of our leaders. I'm very, very proud that they are a part of Margie's Hope. It was named after my mother because of the support that she showed me, because of the love that she showed me, and the fact that she wanted to love me and support me when she could have easily pushed me away during a time when being transgender wasn't talked about. Understanding that it was not an easy road for family or for me. She loved me unconditionally. Are we loving our siblings unconditionally? When a trans individual comes to you and shares who they are, do you thank them? Because coming out can be a really hard thing. And as trans people, we are coming out all the time. When we have to change our documentation, when we go to the doctors, even in faith communities sometimes. Are you thanking them? Are you appreciating them? Are you seeing them for the blessed people that they are, for the experiences that they can share? Thank you for letting me be a part of your mourning and sharing about who I am, sharing about what Margie's Hope does, sharing how you can be more supportive of folks within the trans community, because we need your support. There are many people in the trans community, non-binary community, intersex community, gender variant community that are looking for families of faith, but don't always know where to find them. Thank you for opening your doors, welcoming me and welcoming my community, because we need more families of faith like you.
Today, we celebrate the completion of our annual pledge drive. At this point, we've received 90 pledges for a total of $237,288. We only need another $62,712 to fully fund our budget for the fiscal year of 2022. If you've not yet made your promise of support for next year, please do so we can finalize our budget. Now, with grateful hearts for all that is and hope for what might yet be, we give and receive these pledges, which represent a shared commitment on our part to make this a home for people of free faith, where together we continue to find inspiration and strength in community, do the work of social justice, care for the earth, celebrate the pleasures and challenges of living, and grow in mind and spirit. May the doors of this house of promise and possibility always be open to welcome every person who comes to give and receive the gifts of spirit and life to be found here. Through the abundance we celebrate this morning, may the flame of our liberal faith continue to burn brightly in our world. We say, from you I give, from you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and it is through this that we live. We now receive the morning's offering as a sign of our shared commitment to the life and work of this congregation and beyond.
Strong enough? Do you care enough to be my friend? To be my friend?
Thank you, Katie. Now to bring our time of service to its close, would you join me in extinguishing the chalice? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. May we carry these in our hearts and minds until we are together again. I want to extend a warm thank you to Jacob Nash for being with us this morning, for sharing your words of wisdom, your story with us, for enlightening us, struggles of transgender people in our world. I also want to extend my thanks Kevyn Breedon for sharing some of his story with us, teaching us, and being part of our congregation. And special thanks to Katie Grigg for a beautiful song as well. Now I offer you these words of blessing adapted from the Reverend Teresa Soto. Dear trans, non-binary, genderqueer, and gender expansive friends and kin, let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up. You are not hard to love and respect. Your existence is a blessing. Your pronouns are not a burden or a trial. Your body really and truly belongs to you. We promise to be for you the people on the Freedom for the People way. Your joy and complexity are beautiful. May we always see you and keep to our shared tasks of healing and getting free. Now blessed by our time together and renewed in our commitment to see and make welcome and included transgender, non-binary, genderqueer, and gender expansive friends and kin, as we struggle together to be on the Freedom for the People way, let us go forth in joy and in hope to continue inspiring love, seeking justice, and growing community. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. And I see the wonder and beauty in you.